Okay, here are a couple other examples that you might want to look at as you're doing your work. So this one looks like a doozy of a one. We have 25x to the seventh, y to the eighth, all divided by 6x to the second, y to the second, all to the second power, minus x to the fourth, y to the fourth. Okay, so let's take a look at what our rules we need. So I see that I have that line to mean division. So I see power of quotient. I see that I have parentheses with an exponent on the outside, so that would be power of power. I see a subtraction sign, so that means that we're going to be doing some subtraction. And then we might need negative power, but we'll have to see. So let's take a look. We're going to be going in that same step in that same order that we said in our last video. So our first step is going to be power of power. So I have my 25x to the seventh, y to the eighth. And now we're going to be completing that power of power, which only occurs in this section right here. I need to take that 6 and put it to the power of 2. You can also think of it as 6 being the base and a power of 1 right there. 1 times 2 is 2, but either way you should get an answer of 6 to the second power. Then we're going to multiply the powers for x to get x to the fourth, and the same thing with y to get y to the fourth as well. And that is being subtracted from x to the fourth, y to the fourth. There is parentheses, but there's no exponent right there, so we don't have to do power of power because it's not really going to change anything. Now, just because there's not a number here doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. Instead, that number is actually going to be 1, so that's something to kind of keep in mind. Great. We have power of power complete. Now we're going to do our next step, which is power of subtraction. So again, going in that specific order. So my top is going to stay exactly the same. That doesn't change at all because I haven't done any steps that involve it yet. However, at the bottom is where I'm going to be starting to do some math. Now, in my last video, I said there's going to be moments in when you need to do numbers and solve for them first. And this is going to be a case. So just like with any subtraction, what we need to do is to keep the bases and the powers, which are exactly the same, so that's a big flag saying I can do it. But I need to solve the numbers in order to subtract. So I can do 6 to the second power, which is going to be 36. And I'm just going to kind of write that on the side so that you see where these numbers are coming from. And then I have my 1 right on my other equation. So 36 minus 1 is equal to 35. So that's where my number is coming from. And I'm going to have 35x to the fourth, y to the fourth. Again, I can do subtraction because I have the same bases and the same powers. It's just the numbers in front that you actually have to solve and then subtract in order to get your new number. Now I'm going to continue on with doing power of quotient, and then always at the end, make sure that you can simplify any numbers that you might have. So power of quotient means I'm going to take my same bases and subtract the powers because of that division line. So right now I'm just going to keep the 25 over 35 exactly the way it is. I have 7 minus 4 is going to be a positive 3. And 8 minus 4 is going to be a positive 4. Hey, great, I didn't have any negative powers. Everything looks good besides those numbers in front. I need to simplify those numbers, and I can simplify those numbers by dividing by 5 to get my final answer of 5x to the third, y to the fourth, all over the number 7. So it's very important that you take that big old problem and put them into chunks that you can solve step by step. And we're going to do that with our next problem, which is this big old long thing right here. I see a couple of things in here that require me to use some rules, and I see 3 rules offhand. First off, I have these parentheses with an exponent on the outside, so that tells me I need power of power. I also see an addition sign right here, so I need to make sure that I use addition. And finally, over here, I have 2 sets of parentheses that are right next to each other. If they're right next to each other, I know they're multiplying, so that also includes power of products. Great, everything's looking pretty good. So let's continue on. So I am going to do my first step, which is power of power. So power of power means that I'm going to take everything inside this parentheses and put it to the second power, including that -3. Now remember, with negatives and powers, use your brain. Don't rely on a calculator. So what we technically have is -3, including that negative to the third or to the second power. My x is and y are going to be the fourth powers because 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4 as well. And that is being added to 3x to the second, y to the second, times 2x to the second, y to the second. Perfect. Now I can go on to my next one, which is going to be power of product. Power of product is only going to deal with this section right here. So I am going to add my exponents with the same bases. And since these are multiplying, I'm going to multiply the numbers in front. Just for kind of ease of ness, and I can see later on I'm going to need it, I'm going to do -3 to the second power as well, kind of in this step. -3 times -3 is a +9. And my powers and exponents in that section stay the same. However, over here, 3 times 2 is 6. And I'm going to get x to the fourth, y to the fourth as well, because 2 plus 2 is 4. Finally, we are able to do our last one, which is power of addition. And again, I have my bases and my powers the same. So I'm going to keep it the way that it is. And I'm just going to add those numbers in front. And 9 plus 6 is 15. And I have my final answer. One more problem I'd like to show you is 4x to the third times 4x to the fifth times y, all divided by 2x to the second, y to the second. I see 2 rules offhand. Let's see if these are the only rules we're going to be needing. The first one is I have 2 sets of parentheses right next to each other. That means multiplication. So I have power of products. I also see that division line, so that means it is going to be power of quotients. Now I can start my problem by doing power of product first. I have 2 bases of x and a y with variables. My x technically has a 1 with there, and 1 plus 5 is going to be 6. So I have x to the 6. And then I have y to the third with another 1 right here. And 3 plus 1 is going to be 4. I'm going to take those numbers and I am just going to multiply them together. They are the same bases though, so if you did want to use your rules, you can. But I just like thinking of them as numbers. And 4 times 4 is going to be 16. Now that's being divided by everything on the bottom, which doesn't change. However, it does change in our next step, which is power of quotient. So again, I'm taking my same bases and I'm going to subtract the powers to get x to the fourth and y to the second. 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. And that last and final sentence to simplify the numbers in front, always see if you can divide by something. And I can divide the top and the bottom by 2 to get our final answer of 8x to the second, 8x to the fourth, y to the second. Yay, we have it done. Please make sure that you are listing everything, whether it's in your mind or on your paper, of what you need to do and taking it step by step. You got this. Good luck.